Dave, Braden just messaged me that he wants us to go ahead with activity number 1 without him. So we'll go and put them in their breakout rooms and then come back. So do you want to do a quick recap of what we were working on over the weekend? And I will sort them into breakout rooms.
We're going to put you guys into breakout rooms, groups of 3, just to practice that kind of 1-minute marketing message. If you had a chance over the weekend to give it a shot. If you didn't, it's okay. You should be able to talk about your business in some way, shape, or form. So this is an opportunity just in small groups, get to know each other a little bit better and to get some feedback around how you're talking about your business. Now, this is really kind of impromptu here. We're going to get more strategic with this as we go on. So don't feel like there's too much pressure here. Just a chance to practice with each other and give feedback on what you liked or what you might think someone should change, or any kind of advice or tips are always helpful. Any questions before we give this a shot? Awesome. Cool. All right. I have the breakout rooms ready here. Give me 1 sec.
Oh, I have them.
Oh, you already have them set up?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I had them too. Go for it.
So we're putting you in for 10 minutes. Remember, your spiel is about 1 minute. So that should give time for everyone to share and get some feedback. So just kind of keep an eye on the clock. You each have about 3 minutes. All right.
And then just to let everybody know, on Thursday, we'll do it as a big group session as well. We'll have time for that.
So this is the practice round.
Yeah.
All right. Off you go.
See you in a bit.
Welcome back, everyone. Good to see you again. How did that go? Can I have maybe 3 volunteers tell me just a little bit about how the experience was? Cecilia, how was your experience?
It was good. I just had one suggestion for Thursday if we're doing this again.
Yeah.
It'd be if we could share our screens or something so that there's a visual for feedback. That's just how my brain works anyway. Like if I'm hearing other people's pitches and critiquing it, does that make sense?
Do you mean you want us to have a visual, like a whiteboard where you can write things down for that person, or that person can share a pitch deck?
Share what they're pitching.
But it's not supposed to be a presentation, is it?
No.
So
just if we're helping each other critique our pitches.
Do you mean just the words?
Yeah.
The script. Okay.
Is that okay?
I see what I misunderstood what you meant. I thought you wanted them to have a formal presentation prepared.
No.
Okay.
I just found it difficult critiquing a pitch when just listening to it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Let me get back to you on that one, Cecilia.
What she meant, because I wasn't familiar with everyone's businesses, so I'd hear and I wouldn't really I want to critique something, but I don't want to say the wrong thing because I didn't really not remember, but I'm like, I don't know exactly what you said, but I like that part where you mentioned this thing like this, and I'm not really being clear in what I'm saying. And so I had to be kind of vague and not so specific when it came to giving critique. So I get what she's saying.
I gotcha.
That's the idea here. Is this is your first time doing this, guys? So a lot of you may kind of remember what each other do at this point. You've only heard it maybe once or twice. The idea is for you to get to kind of know each other a little bit more, understand your business, and this will keep happening over and over again. And eventually you'll be so sick of hearing each other's pitches and you'll have really nothing left to say other than, oh, that's great. It's improved so much, ideally. So yes, I know in the beginning it's a little difficult, right? Because it happens really quick and you're like, well, the key thing is what was memorable, right? In the few seconds that you had, what did you actually remember? What stuck out to you, right? So, and then as we learn about this a little bit more, you'll have the ability to critique in more detail.
Yeah, and logistically, I hear what you're saying, Cecilia. It's easier to read and give feedback, but we'll definitely have opportunities to do that when it's supposed to be visually. I'm a little hesitant to say we're going to go forward with that because some people here are more off the cuff and won't actually have a written script prepared. They'll just say, I'm feeling about this way about my business today. So let Dave and I chat about that one. We might come up with maybe an option that you can do it a couple of ways. But thank you for the suggestion. We will take that back and let you know tomorrow what we're going to do about that one for Thursday. Anyone want to share anything else about their experience sharing their pitch or maybe giving feedback to another pitch? Yeah, Steve.
I got some great feedback to not use industry jargon. I'm really bad for using a lot of terminology from my industry that makes no sense to anyone else. And that was a nice little reminder for that. So that was great.
Love that. I also do that. If you start hearing me talking in acronyms, also please point that out to me. Rachel.
Steve, why don't you share what term that was that caught us off guard?
So I use the term fluid milk, which is just like one way we describe different products in the industry, which, yeah, like to me is perfectly normal. And that's just like, you know, what we're talking about. But to my partners, sounded very ridiculous. Like, what other form would milk be in if not fluid? So that was, yeah, that was good feedback from me.
That is a fun one. All right. Thanks for sharing, Steve. One more, Ebony?
Yeah. So I was explaining my pitch and I was able to get feedback. Someone in my group had mentioned, Brittany had mentioned something that I didn't even know about the industry and how I have a unique perspective that I'm coming from. And I didn't realize how unique it was, but she understood how unique it was because she has been in the industry. So that was really great for me because now I can really stand on that and be like, okay, this is my unique selling point.
I love that. And that's one of the things that we like to tout about the connections you guys make in Leap In, right? You know, I know Brittany's got an extensive career in music and audio post-production. And so obviously with your understanding of, you know, television and broadcasting and sort of the other side of it, you know, that's a connection that you probably, when you came in, thought, well, a double woodwind playing instrument sales company and I probably aren't going to have a lot in common, but turns out that you do. So I'm really glad you guys made that connection. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, I'm going to get Steve and Ebony to pop their hands back down. And you'll notice that we have a guest with us here today. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Braden to all of you. We're going to talk a little bit more today. So just a recap, obviously last week we started up, we met with Marley, we learned a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey and the mindset. We also met with Nicole, learned a little bit about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, but there was an overall kind of thought of reflection and setting goals and being intentional in our business. And we're going to really continue that conversation today. So Braden's going to kick it off for us with our learning. So I'm going to read you his bio. You can also find it on FOL. But in the interim, please make sure that you're either grabbing a pen, pencil, notebook, or opening your OneNote or wherever you keep notes for Braden. So a bit about Braden. He's a senior consultant at Deloitte and a former professor in the business management program at Fanshawe. He has an undeniable passion for creativity, collaboration, entrepreneurship, education, and design thinking. His wide range of passions has influenced his career in education, entrepreneurship, and now working on big, messy problems across many industries. His work at AdmitKit, is that am I saying that right? Kind of, you trip over that one, eh? AdmitKit helped many students find their path while he initiated deeper conversation about change in education with international business partners. Braden started his adventurous career with a move to Hawaii and then Australia. His goal at the time was simple, to learn how to surf. Braden decided on an unconventional path through university and self-discovery. His experiences make him relatable, his passion makes him engaging, and the way he integrates behavioral economics, design thinking, and empathy into his work provides a refreshing perspective on higher education and the startup world. He is passionate about helping students find their way in entrepreneurship and life. I've really enjoyed working with Braden for the last about year and a half, and I know you will too. So over to you, Braden. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kelsey. Yeah, really excited to be here. I did this last year. I really enjoy it. I love the feedback afterwards. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to bounce some ideas around. I heard some really interesting things in that dialogue right away, even tying back to, is it Cecilia? Did I get that right? Yeah. To your point of maybe just feeling a little bit uncomfortable with that pitch, but then also on the flip side, hearing Avadi and Steve talking about jargon, I'm super guilty of that too, but also having this unique value. And this really ties into what I'm going to talk about today of just sort of how our brain operates. I'm not going to get all neuroscience deep or anything like that, but just point out a few things of what's happening here with our ways of thinking. And when you're so embedded in what you do, you make a lot of really fast decisions and you don't even notice that I'm using whatever jargon or whatever that's super relatable to my industry. But you need people to bounce it off of, like Cecilia, who are like, what the heck are you talking about? I have no idea. Because that flips it over to the slow thinking, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today, and use that to make more intentional, less hollow goals for yourself as you work through your journey. So let me get the deck queued up here. I hate how it always moves on me. Why did you do this? Yeah, I don't want the full desktop. Just a sec, please. There we go. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So a little bit about myself before we get in. As you heard, I'm now a senior consultant at Deloitte. Yes, I'm working on really big, messy problems, very layered sort of business challenges that are extremely complex, working on really, really massive companies now. And it's really interesting work. How I got there was after 10 years of working in higher education and constantly working on change problems within an institution, whether it was Western, I worked at Ivy as well, and at Fanshawe as well, building solutions that are more related to the students moving through the system, how we can make more meaningful interactions, and that sort of thing. What it led me to was this really interesting path where I was just sort of flowing through the motions and not really knowing necessarily where I was going or what I was doing. But in the process, I identified a big gap in the education space within Canada and started to build a solution around that. The idea was that a lot of people kind of move into education after high school, not really based off of choices, but they sort of fall into this script. You know, parent was an accountant or a lawyer or whatever, and then kid sort of just follows through. But what we see at the output is that, well, pre-pandemic, and we're seeing some changes to this now, is that 64% of the population is working in a job where they don't have any, they can't derive any meaning. They don't know why they're there. And you get into this sort of ho-hum, I'm stuck in this, what am I going to do? And I get complacent. And I trace it all the way back to that jump basically from high school out to university. And it runs parallel to my thinking at that point in time, as you heard in my life. That's when I moved to Hawaii. I played baseball at the national level before that, and I was not tall enough nor good enough to make it any further. That was the end of the line for me at high school. And I had an offer to go into kinesiology because that's what all my bro buddies were doing, and I had no idea what it meant. So I took off. I moved to Hawaii, started there for 6 months, and then lived in Australia for a year, just figuring out life. And I realized at that time, without realizing, that this just doesn't feel right to me. There's something wrong here. And so I resisted the system naturally. And it's funny how I came back full circle and then started to build a company out of it. The journey with the company was really cool. It lasted for a couple of years. The company still exists. It's been rebranded since. But when we were working through it, we had a piece of ed tech. So speaking of jargon, it's just educational technology. And all it was using these behavioral economics to help students predict a path forward where they would succeed. So thinking about not just the program that they go into based off of inputs of like how well you did in high school and what your interests are and stuff like that, but what city, what school, and then also your payback horizon. So what's your chances of career success? What's your chances of career growth? So it can show you how quickly you can pay back your loan. Everybody was like, wow, this is a really cool piece of technology. It's all AI built out, can do it. But we couldn't get any money. We pitched it everywhere, and we were in deep with RBC Ventures, 4 rounds of it, and we just weren't getting anywhere. And inevitably, they said, "We like it, but we're not going to move forward with it." And I had a real reflection point at that time, thinking, okay, entrepreneurship, I love this stuff. I love building ideas. I love businesses, but what's wrong here? Why can't I get this? It was at that time. Also, my wife was like, you need to start, showing more profit on this because you're gone 24 hours of the day, because I was working full time still at Ivy at that point. And so I had to make a decision. And I decided at that moment that I needed to plan my life out a little bit more. How can I ensure that my passion piece of building ideas and entrepreneurship can be satisfied, but I can earn a living and see my family at the same time? And so I sold my shares off to my partner. He's running more of a consulting side where it's face-to-face interactions with students as they're trying to figure out mental health crisis, finances, all that sort of stuff. And that's all very important, but it wasn't where my heart was. So I sold it off and I moved on. I knew that I needed to acquire more digital skills. So I started a master's, and I knew that I needed to find another space where I could support but be involved with this while developing skills. And ultimately it led me to teaching, working with this group here, which I love, and then inevitably over to Deloitte, which wasn't originally part of the plan, if the team remembers my Odyssey map from last year. But if you constantly reassess, these opportunities sort of show up, and you know, okay, this is what I need to do at this point in time. So all of that to be said, I want to take you through some of the big lessons learned that I had through that, where I was missing some information and mistakes or making mistakes, and then some tools that you can actually take away that will help you with building out your life plan alongside building out your business canvas model or whatever you're doing for your actual professional piece. Also, there's a tool that we can use later that can help you with that pitch part if you wanted something that's visible. Okay, so first I'm going to just play you a video here. You may or may not have seen this, but I like it because I have kids. And let me know, can you hear it?
No.
It never works when the mic's in, so just a sec here. If you can't hear it, there's nothing really.
Did everybody hear the task, or you want me to replay it?
Can you restart it?
Yeah, let's go back.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right.
Yeah, that's me.
I'm gonna go do something, and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. It smells really good.
All right, so it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay.
There it is. Okay. I'm going to cut it short because I think you all get the idea of what's happening here. But this isn't just some, mean joke to kids. This is a really old psychology experiment about how we think. And this does happen to adults. And you may think, oh, no, I could resist the marshmallow and wait until they come back to get 2 marshmallows or whatever it is. I don't need this headset anymore. But if you think about maybe your last New Year's resolution, how many weeks did it last till you popped open a bag of Ruffles? Or you think about the dry month, right? Don't drink, and dry February. Originally that was January, but society can't even do it in January, that they decided, like, let's forget this. Let's just do it in February. So adults make this mistake as well, but it happens in entrepreneurship as well. You saw a lot of different sort of responses there from the kids. You know, some of them are just staring at it and looking at it. Others are like banging their head or whatever, so that they try not to think about it. But it's really hard to take that out of your mind. There's the reward right there. I could have it right now, or I could wait till later. No, forget it. And this does happen when you're starting out your company as well. And one way that I've really seen that it happens is that there's two differences. You either are the business or you're building the business. When you set into you are the business mode, you're taking the marshmallow. You need to keep focusing on building the business, or otherwise you start to plateau. You start to stifle your production. So you always want to keep in mind that you need to carve out time to build that business. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in a trap. And I had a friend I was just talking to. She just sold off her, I'm going to butcher it, but it's like this boutique high-end coffee company that was based out of London. She just sold it off. And I talked to her afterwards. I said, what happened? It was your baby. I know you loved it. She said, you know what? I lost my passion. I lost my passion for the business. And I said, well, what was going on? She said, I was just so busy filling orders and taking sales and stuff like that, that I wasn't building the business anymore. And so she lost her eyes on the prize, that long-term reward. She took the marshmallow right away, and she lost her focus on it. And this is just to point out, this is one way of thinking, and you got to know what your long-term goals are so you don't get distracted on the short term. Same thing, again, going back to just being natural, just being humans. You know, if I said McDonald had an amazing career for the Maple Leafs, at the point in time that I said McDonald, were you thinking about a hockey player or Big Macs? Probably Big Macs. And that's how this works. You can't stop it from happening. Your brains are just going to do it, but you can create sort of ways to make sure that you don't slip into those mistakes. And that's what we're going to go through today. So I have another video here. This one's going to require a little bit more thinking for you, a little bit more activity. So watch this one. We'll talk about this in a sec.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
So again, repurposed for look out for cyclists. Totally makes sense. Again, this is one of the oldest fast and slow thinking psychology tests. And it's interesting. So when we talk about fast and slow thinking, let me get to my next slide. The way it works is when we're doing fast thinking, it's quick decisions. So how many of you have a Monday shirt that you wear, or a Tuesday shirt that you wear, or something like that? Or you just automatically get up and brush your teeth in the morning? All this is fast thinking. We're not really using any sort of capacity to make those decisions. And then we have slower decisions where, like, if you're counting out how many passes and that sort of thing, then you're slowing it down, and that's where you're actually thinking. But when we split this up in a day, in your day, just think about what you've done today. Actually, not an example because you're in a boot camp, but think about a normal day, Saturday or something like that. How many decisions do you think in a percentage basis are fast versus old? And feel free to come off mic or drop it in the chat. How many you think? what percentage of your decisions in a day are fast? And obviously what are slow?
I'd say like 95 are fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 95, actually in some studies, they say 99% of the decisions that we make in a day are fast. So even things like driving, switching lanes, using a signal, looking at a green light, like a green light really doesn't have any meaning to it. You take it out of context, it means nothing. Maybe it's a Christmas light or something else. But in that context, we're just auto programs. Okay. That means go, red means stop, whatever, and so on. And you miss things. You miss moonwalking bears in this moment because you're so focused. You're actually you're taking your mind to think slow, and you miss these things that go by, right? And so you can miss opportunities, and that obviously ties back into entrepreneurship. If you think about potentially new markets to tap into, new customers, new product lines, new features for your products, new people to approach, you can miss this. And in my case, I started missing opportunities for jobs that were actually more in line with what I wanted to do. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily you, but what we need to do is we need to come up with what has been called nudges. And so today I'm going to show you some tools of how you can bake in a couple of interventions that can help you know when certain things are happening in your entrepreneurial journey that you have to go, oh, wait a second, I'm going to go to slow thinking. What is this telling me again? I need to think a little bit more about this. Otherwise, you find that you're just the business, you're just running it instead of building the business. So I understand that we have some experience with Miro. So I have a Miro board. If you want to, let me just actually share that in the chat so you can link out to it. Oh yeah, it's not going to let me do that. Hang on a sec here. Where's the chat? Here we go. Everybody can join in. Let me know when you get there. Can everybody see my screen still with the Miro board, or is it?
No, it's still on your other window, and nothing has come through in the chat yet.
No? Oh, I went to Kelsey. Kelsey, can you share that out with everybody?
Sure can. I was thinking, I'm in. What are you talking about?
So I built this out. Some really interesting feedback right away from last year. David asked, do I have any tools to do this? And I sort of, in an abstract way, described it. But this year, I also have become really comfortable with Miro as a platform working on those big, messy problems that I was talking about. But these are some of the tools that I laid out. And what you can do here is you can screen grab all of this, right? Like that. Copy it and paste it onto your own board so that you can use this framework to help yourselves with whether you're planning out your life or if it's planning out some business challenges that we'll get to in a second. But where I want to start here is, as I mentioned, we want to avoid, I know you're going into a session of building out your goals, your objectives, and all that sort of stuff, but I want to make sure that we focus in a way that allows us to avoid hollow goals. And so that picture of the beach, a lot of entrepreneurs talk about that. I want to be so independently wealthy and working digitally that I can work from a beach. Cool. That in itself is a hollow goal. How do you tie it in? How do you create coherence between that professional, or is it a personal goal? So these are some of the tools to get there. The first one is you really want to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Why are you building this company? And I heard some interesting pieces, of some people being involved in music. So this is probably a way that you're driving your personal passion into a way to generate revenue and a living and that sort of thing. But it may not be as clear to you, right? Are you just solving a problem? And if you are, is this a long-term solution for you? Or is it just one in many different companies that you're going to start? The only way you're really going to figure this out is if you tap into who you are and what are some of those things that are really important to you. You need to understand that. So when you think about it, I also have a background in marketing, and I know I think there's a graphic designer in this group, but maybe not. Anyway, in marketing, we do a lot of measuring of behavior online, which we all know about. Everybody's familiar with conversations about data security and, TikTok taking my data and selling it to whatever country around the world. Whether that's true or not, I don't need to get into that discussion, but we do capture a lot of data, but we capture it in the aggregate, and we're really good at pinpointing a persona, a certain type of person that we can target with ads, and they'll inevitably click on it, carry through, get to our sales process, and eventually it leads to business. But what we don't do a very good job at is capturing our own data. And this is a way that you can do it. And I reframed it to this love it or loathe it tool in life design. And the idea here is that as you go through your daily routine, you can just take your phone, create 2 columns, love it or loathe it. You could also get the Miro board app on your phone and just continue to create that way. And what you want to do is try to peg a goal of adding 3 different things, 3 different events in your day that you love or you hate. Doesn't matter. And you can peg a score on it, 1, 2, or 3. Make it a simple scoring mechanism. And you want to do this for about 2 weeks to a month to really capture enough widespread information that you can start to aggregate your own data. And what you might end up seeing is, over a month, you have, say, 15 hits of, hey, I hung out with a puppy in a park and I really like this puppy video on Instagram. And then I really hated this cat video on Instagram, or my friend talked about a cat and I hated it. Either way, you get to see what I'm saying, but it's going to start to percolate up and you're going to say, I really like dogs and I don't like cats. So if this job comes to groom cats, I better not take it. It's not a good opportunity for me. Of course, I'm simplifying this. It will become a little bit more deeper rooted into things like you really like engaging on social media, or you really hate having your face on a camera. Those sort of things are going to lead to really valuable insights that can help you shine light on your future of, is this something that I'm going to be able to sustain? Is this viable for me? Is this something that I can pursue for a long time? Or is this just a short sort of project business that's going to be fun to do for a bit, but I'm eventually going to have to move on? And those are tough questions to ask yourself in the moment. This is where the moonwalking bear floats right by, and you don't see it if you haven't tapped into what's really driving your value system through an exercise like this. This is also a tool that you can use where if you're working through your company and you get to that point where you're like, I'm feeling drained, I'm feeling emotionally exhausted, I don't have time to even pet my dog who's over there, or hang out with my kids, or I'm not even wanting to play video games or something like that, whatever your thing is, that's when it's time to go to one of this tool specifically and go, I need to do a check on myself. I need to aggregate my own data. Have things changed over the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months? And what is it? And maybe you end up finding out that you go back to this after 2 weeks of capturing your data and you're like, whoa, all I'm doing is filling out invoices and billing people and chasing people for payments. I'm being the business, I'm not building the business. It's hard to see in the moment, but you got to have these nudges or interventions to help percolate that up. So this is just one tool to start. I'm a big Yoda fan and I like Disney. My wife got me onto it. And I really like a lot of his sayings. I like failure is the greatest teacher and all that sort of stuff. But I really like this one too, because I've been thinking a lot about the future. I think everybody has in hopes of normalcy and all that sort of stuff. But I found this tool that Disney actually uses, and Disney is known to be one of the original design thinkers, Walt Disney himself. I don't know if you're familiar with Disney itself, but on Main Street, there's this one shop on the corner where he built an apartment above it. Nobody knew it was an apartment, and he would actually stay in there and just observe people. He would observe their flows through the street. He would observe what they were interacting with. He'd be like, wow, a lot of people stop over here at this time of day around, say, 2:30 when it's hot. Let's put a lemonade stand there and people will start buying lemonade. So it's really understanding how people work. It's human centric. And so the way it works is you want to work from the dreamer perspective around the ears this way and then back to the dreamer. The idea is never to stifle that dream. That's really important. This is where you want to go really, really wide. So if we're thinking about life design, maybe this is working from a beach somewhere. Maybe this is generating $100,000 sales a quarter or whatever it may be. That's what you want to peg in here. This could be your pitch. Here's my dream pitch. This is what I'm thinking about. But then as you move around, you want to get to the realist perspective. This is where you want to play the not quite devil's advocate, but how can we do this? How can I make this true? So in other terms, this becomes our how might we statement. How might I work from a beach? How might I become independently wealthy so I can spend more time with my kids? This statement is, what do I have to do to make that true? So you start saying, okay, well, I need a more stable job, an income, or I need to get more presence in social media. I need to amp that up. I need to understand my personas. Am I missing a certain demographic that I can market to? That's where those sort of questions come up. The critic side is where you really come down on yourself. And it's really hard to do this. This is where this becomes more collaborative. This is where I recommend that you bounce it off of people. You get a board like this and share it with someone that you're close with who maybe is working in a totally different industry so they can expose some of those like really narrow, like fluid milk kind of statements that you were talking about and that sort of thing. Because you want someone to expose it where you can take a step back. Because if you're calling it fluid milk, or if you're calling it design thinking, even to a certain extent, what the heck does that mean, right? You need somebody to expose that and be like, yeah, I'm not following. And that's going to put you back into system 2 thinking. That's where you're going to take out of that fast and be like, yeah, what the heck is that? What would be hard milk? Cheese? Like, you just have those moments. I'm sorry, Steve. I know I'm picking on you. I just love the idea. And I hope you don't mind. I don't mean anything by it. I think it's just a really good example. But what you're doing here is you're trying to plot out your future, right? But you have to do this frequently because the future is always changing. And so this is why I also pulled in Disney. He has a park, Tomorrowland, which is part of Epcot. The problem with Tomorrowland is that they have to constantly go back to it and update rides and update exhibits because, again, you eventually catch up to the future. And when you do catch up to it, it probably doesn't look quite like you envisioned it, but you need to envision more. So you kind of are just constantly setting out that railroad track just in front of you, but you have to keep revisiting it. Otherwise, you're going to blow right past what your vision is. And you got to keep moving in entrepreneurship. Otherwise, someone's going to come in, a different competitor, and they're going to eat your lunch. To get to this, sometimes you got to go back to here. What do I love about my business? Where is this going? What's changed in the industry? And what do I like about it? What's changed in the industry? And I hate it. I don't like this. This whole industry is completely changed and I don't like it now. And I think sometimes those are unforeseen. Like COVID, for example. COVID rocked everybody's world, changed a whole bunch of entrepreneurs' mindsets and perspectives. And maybe the business changed. More e-commerce, for example. I was talking to one. I said, you want to revive your business? Where's your web storefront? Where's your Shopify, right? You got to get going with this sort of thing. It's like, I have no interest in doing that. That's not my passion. That's not what I got in this. Well, you got to revisit that and ask yourself, is this where I need to keep going? Because at the end of the day, you got to be happy. You can't be chasing something if you're not happy. Then when we get to, and I'm running out of time here, but this is the Odyssey map that I was talking about. And I used a few examples here just for fun. But the idea of this is you want to map out the next 5 years of your life after looking at the dreamer, realist, critic circle, after looking at your love it or loathe it, and thinking about what do the next 5 years look like. Your first column is what you're currently doing and you're chasing. So do you want to be the founder of Spanx? Sarah Blakely's doing all right. If you do, you want to plot in, what does that look like? Year 1, I need to do this. Year 2, I need to do that. Year 3, 4, and 5. Of course, when you get to years 3, 4, and 5, it's not going to be as accurate as year 1, but you need to sort of project it. It's okay. It's future casting. But then as you look at that, you got to ask yourself, how does this make me feel? Is this where I want to go? Is that the direction? And maybe you can course correct and go in a different direction. But the emotional part of this is really important to add in to what you're doing. The second column is, what would you do if this option failed? So maybe you buy up some Bitcoin, invest in that, chase that down. Maybe not. Maybe it's something else. And so last year, I was working full-time at Western. I was teaching at Fanshawe, and I was looking at these two options side by side. How do both of these options get me closer to working with entrepreneurs? And so you map it out. What does it look like year 1 to year 2? You can see it side by side. And then you can really go down to this and say, okay, this is how it makes me feel. And so part of that was I was deciding, do I go full in on teaching at Fanshawe? Well, I was a part-time prof. There's some risk associated with that. What if I get 1 course to teach? What if I get 3? I don't know how this is going to pan out. Can I afford my lifestyle? Can I afford to feed my kids? Whatever. That did make me feel very good. But I didn't know that looking from the outside in. So I had to map it out, throw down how I felt about that. You can throw emojis too. Like, you don't have to necessarily write your feelings if that's not your thing. You can just simply slap on a unhappy face. I don't know. I didn't pull over, but anyway, they have all these emojis in here too. So there we go. I was unhappy about that. Don't worry about all this stuff moving. You guys can fix it later. But then the last one is this blue sky idea. And this is probably the most important one. This is where you tie in your passion piece. Some of the love it stuff that you list at the top may not be related at all to what you're doing professionally. It might be loving dogs. It might be a passionate baseball fan. It might be being in love with music or poetry or something like that. And maybe you don't find a way to tie it into your professional life right away, but you want to map it out so you can go back up to that coherence map and say, am I doing what I'm doing professionally? Am I getting enough time to do what I love personally? If it's taxing that, it's not sustainable on the professional side. You need to rethink that and go back. Is there a way to weave it in? So last year I was like, okay, I'm getting a whole bunch of digital skills, learning how to create whatever on Adobe and Premiere and all this sort of stuff. Maybe I could go work for ESPN in Florida. And then that way I can be involved in baseball. I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. Then when I started mapping it out with my wife, we were like, what about the grandparents seeing the kids? They're not going to be able to make it down all the time. This is obviously right at the start of COVID. We're like, there's some certain policies and ways of life in America that just didn't really align with our thinking. Would that really work? How would that look like if we were living down there in that culture? Would we be able to do it? And ultimately, it really started to shine on this part, how I felt about what I thought was my dream job. I was like, nope, that's not my dream job. Baseball is going to be something I enjoy watching. I even tried to take another pass at it, and I was talking to Sportsnet in the fall about a potential opportunity. Once I started to dig into it, I realized this isn't what I'm looking for. And then ultimately, that's how Deloitte came up. But ultimately, when I think about Deloitte, it was that moonwalking bear. And because I'd gone through this exercise and I knew what I really wanted to do, which was work on big problems, have an opportunity to be expressive and creative, come up with solutions that were unique, kind of like an entrepreneur, but also have that stability of having a certain job and an income at this point in time in my life, it satisfied it. Plus, it's really accelerating my skills of understanding how a business operates on the inside. How do you create business models, funding models, marketing? How do you do change management? All those sort of things. And now when I come back to entrepreneurship, I'll know how to do it better for myself, but I also know how to do it to help other entrepreneurs. So it really led me to a path where I was like, this actually really fits. It checks off all the boxes, which I would have never seen had I not gone through these life design tools. So unfortunately, I'm at time, and this is part of being a consultant, is I'm meeting to meeting with clients. But what I'd like to say is feel free to capture this mural board. I've saved it with you so you can go in and play around with it. What I recommend is just copying it. I can't get the whole box here to move for a second. There we go. No, it didn't work. Whatever. Just go in and grab it, create it on your own mural board. Use these tools to help plot out your own entrepreneurial journey, but also use these tools to help come up with new functions for whatever you're doing, or new ways to market your business to maybe a new market, maybe a new way to generate revenue. Are you missing opportunities to enhance your sales as you go through with what you already have? A lot of that will come out of this area, and a lot of it will come out of this area as well. Also, if you're interested in looking more at this stuff, there's a couple of books called Design Your Life or Design Your Work Life that are really there's just chock full of these tools. So if you're like, yeah, I'm really feeling like I'm stuck right now, or I'm just not getting that same drive out of what I was doing, how do I get that back? There's tools to get it back, but there's also tools to move forward. And if you like the behavioral economics stuff, just Google that. It really comes into play for, missing opportunities or seeing opportunities or making decisions. Some of the work that I'm doing right now is even on, we're identifying bias in hiring and looking at different ways to have interventions in that, so that we don't tend to favor certain schools over hiring, so that we don't tend to favor males over females, or different ethnic backgrounds or socioeconomic backgrounds, because all of those things happen in the fast twitch decision-making cycle. But it also happens in marketing, how you interact with the screen. For example, like if I want to stop share, there's a red button up here. If I want to leave this Zoom channel, it's red, because red means exit, right? And so there's a lot of those little nudges in marketing and interfaces and stuff like that you can think about too. So when you're coming up with your script, think about the people you're talking to, your audience, and what's going to tip them to buy your product. It's not going to normally be the way you understand it. You got to tap into them and be human-centered. And that's all behavior. That's thinking about, let's get into their mind. How are they thinking about this? And now how can I position this so that they'll say yes to me? So all this applies on a tactical, building your business, but also paying attention to yourself. Anyway, I can carve out 10 minutes here for any questions if you have. Go ahead if you have any questions. I'm going to send a quick message, but.
Well, while Braden sends a quick message so that we can take just a little bit of his time, we will say thank you. And I think that there's some really great resources in there. While Braden was talking, I went through and copied the link for that Miro board into FOL. So if you go to the day 2 summary, where you'll also find Braden's bio and his contact information for where you can get a hold of him, you'll see that Miro board there. You all have Miro, as I saw all of your names bouncing around the screen with mine. So you can literally, if you were clicking on it, you could click it, copy it, and drag it to your own board. So you can use this as a tool, and that will be in FOL. So if you don't do it today, you can do it tomorrow, you can do it the day after, and that would be great. And Braden, we appreciate you making a bit of time for some questions. It looks like Ebony has a question. Go ahead.
So I had a question and a comment. So first of all, I love this concept. I really love this. I kind of do this I've kind of done this on my own, just for my own personal life, but I've never done it for my business. And it has really helped me, but I just didn't understand when you were talking about, you are the business and then building the business. So you said something about running the business versus building the business. How do you know, is there a time for it? And how do you know when it's time to run the business? How do you know when it's time to build the business? And also there's another thing you had mentioned about love it and loathe it. And so I have certain things like I keep this with me everywhere, but like, this is like a 10-year plan of my life. And so like, I've done that and I kind of broke it down, and I saw that to be able to reach certain goals, I have to do things that I don't like. And so on a daily, I'm like, okay, I have to learn how to do this. How do you know if you loathe something because you just loathe it? Or if you loathe something because it's just not your, like I saw your TED talk and you had mentioned that instead of going straight to university, you went to Australia. But like that was based on the mindset, that was based on what you were told that you weren't, you know, that university wasn't for you. So how do you know you can grow into something, or and how do you know it's just something that, no, this is not for you, just don't do it?
Yeah, great questions. Lots of them. So let me, the first question was around, apologies, I was really stuck on that love it or loathe it part. Let me go to that one first, because that's the most important one. First of all, the 10-year plan, great idea. I love where your head's at. It's just, it's not quite realistic. And the reason being is things are changing so quickly right now, and they're not going to stop for the next 10 years. We're in that exponential stage. When we come out of this pandemic, things are going to look entirely different. So it's good to have it. But as I said, you know, when you get to 3 years and 5 years out, they're going to be less accurate. They're even more less accurate 7 to 10 years out. So you just want to constantly check in. It's like the Disney. It's your Tomorrowland. You have to constantly come back to it and update that. It's good to have the plan, but understand it's statistics. You're going to be more accurate in year 1 than you are year 10. They'll love it or loathe it. Yeah, this is one of the questions. So when I would work with students, not looking at entrepreneurship, but more like, I want to go into this career, I want to go into that career, I'd say, how do you know? You don't know until you don't know what you don't know. And so you need to talk to people, and you need to ask them, what do you do in your day to day? What are the things that you love? That's natural. Whenever you have a coffee chat, that's the natural thing to ask. What's not natural is, what are the things that you don't like about your day to day? And how do you get over those? And this is actually going back to that point of meaning. If you're one of the 64% that aren't deriving meaning out of the work you're doing, those things that you don't like, you're not going to get over those. They're going to start to trickle out and affect your day-to-day life at home, how you interact with your family and your friends and all that other stuff. That's where it really becomes a problem. But if it ties into that congruence, it ties into your value stream, and you are at a level where you're like, I have meaning because my end objective, I love it, I buy into it, it means everything to me, then those little things of maybe learning, getting your Google certificate so you can have better Google AdWords or something like that, you get over that because you're like, this is going to help me get closer to that end means goal that I want to get to. But if you find that you're really struggling with those sort of menial tasks or things that you're like, I hate this, go back and remind yourself on the love it or loathe it why you're doing this. And if it doesn't work, then we got to do a deeper check-in on why you're not loving it anymore. And then the question becomes, are you in the right place? And so this is where your question of being the business and building the business really comes into play. When you're being the business, that's when you're getting tied up on invoicing and running the day-to-days and stuff like that, which you have to do, but it becomes the time suck. It takes you away from the passion, and it can fold your passion in on you. I mean, that was the experience that I had. We were spending, I would come home from work 4:30, 5 o'clock until about midnight. Kids were pinging me on WhatsApp and Insta and all this sort of stuff. And, it was really pulling away from my passion of what I was doing. It was starting to eat at it. And when I got to the point, that's why I had to be really reflective. And when I tried to tap back into what my passion was for it, I wasn't getting it there anymore. I think it just sort of folded in on itself. So you really want to check in on that component.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great question. And these are the things you always have to ask these questions.
Probably have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I think I might have asked this question last year, but I think adding on to what you just mentioned. So clearly, knowing how you're feeling when you're in the business is key, that self-awareness. Could you recommend, for entrepreneurs here, how do you develop a better sense of self-awareness? Learn how to listen to yourself.
Yeah, it's so when you talk about like EQ and self-awareness and all that sort of stuff, and going back to Ebony's point, like you can see that she's beside me on this screen, but I know you can't. is it's a skill and it's a mindset, and mindsets can be developed. So the classic is out of what Carol Dweck out of Stanford talks about is the growth mindset or fixed mindset. And so what you're talking about, self-reflection, is part of the growth mindset, which can be developed with practice and over time. And honestly, like, I have a great example of how I started to think about this. I started to reflect on, what am I doing? What are my actions? What do I like? What do I not like? When I do these things, what's the impact on the people around me? And it had me reflect on how I responded to confrontation. And I vividly remember having this reflection actually work, because there was a confrontation going on at work. It was around a whole bunch of other people. And I stopped the moment. I looked around. I saw people sort of like hiding behind their laptops and their cubicles and stuff like that. And I knew, oh, something's not going right here. So I asked the individual, let's go have a talk over here. Let's get a coffee. Let's de-escalate, whatever. And we worked things out. But I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I hadn't reflected intentionally. After every week, every night is unrealistic. They say to do that, but you're never going to do it. But if every week you can go back and be like, what are those big moments that happened this week? What's my read on how people responded to it? How did the market respond to it? Do I have data and social media, whatever it may be, and reflect on that and think, okay, what happens when this happens again? What am I going to do differently? And so you just exercise that tool and it will get better, just like any other skill.
So thank you, Braden. Appreciate it.
No worries. Well, folks, I have to fly, but please reach out on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, I know it's pretty abstract stuff, or if you want to get into like the psychology deeper, happy to have that chat. Or if you just want to bounce some ideas, if you're like, hey, I created this mural board, can you tell me what you think about my pitch? Cool, send it my way.
Thank you for offering that, Braden. We really appreciate it.
No worries.
And I would encourage you to take advantage of that. Braden is not only a wonderful person to talk to, but has so many great ideas. So definitely connect with him and follow up. I certainly take advantage of those offers when he makes them. So I encourage you to do so too.
Thanks, folks. And Kelsey, looking forward to the next chat whenever you're ready.
You bet.
All right.
Thank you, Braden.
Everybody.
Good luck.
Bye, Braden.
Bye. All right, team, just pop something in the chat. Please remember that you are to be doing feedbacks for each of our speakers. It helps inform us for next year and also give some feedback for our speakers. Pretty much all of them volunteer their time, so they want to know what they can do. A lot of them use this as a test to do some other things. So with that, I'm speaking next. I think that we can take a decent, nope, not bio break, body break. We can definitely take a body break. 2:30? Is there anything after me, Dave? It's just me closing out today, right? Okay, let's come back at 2:30, take a decent break, fill up your beverage, and at 2:30, we will get started, all right? All right, body break. We're all completing our feedback surveys, I see.
So just to let you know, my dad is in the background trying to figure out my internet because I spent all morning. I didn't want to be the person whose internet never works. So I got an Ethernet cable adapter. It doesn't work. Nothing works, but I'm going to figure it out.
You live in like an internet black hole or something. Huh?
I don't know. Like I did a speed test this morning and it was fine. I was on the phone with a friend of mine who just graduated from like the Fanshawe internet program. I don't even know what it's called. He couldn't help me. Sure. Like it's just a bad situation.
Rachel, do you live rurally or in
no? I live like in North London. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But there's no problem with my speed. There's no problem with nothing. I don't know if it's just my laptop or my luck, but I'll figure it out.
I believe in you.
One day. Hopefully soon.
It makes you just slightly more interesting. We never know when you'll come and arrive, and it's all good.
Does your dad want to say hi?
Hi, Rachel's dad. You're muted, Rachel.
He just looked at me and said, "You'll have to get a 50-foot cable to connect, like plug right into the modem down here." Anywho, the fun never ends.
Amazon has really good prices for that. and they have like they're like flat and they have like little connectors, so you can like connect them to the wall and like have it nice.
Very nice.
Well, I'll learn something in the process at least.
All right, everyone. I'm just going to pop a couple links in the chat there for you. So your next workshop is with me. Hello, I am Kelsey. And there is a worksheet to go along with it. So if you're the type of person that likes to follow along the slides yourself, I popped the link to the slides in there. The worksheet is coming in just a second. And Josh, I took your advice and I made it on Google Docs. So you should be able to access it easily if you are there. It looks like Josh isn't there and not listening to me, but shout out to Josh. These are all available on Google Docs. So whether you have Word or not, you should be able to open them. All right, so if you have your video on, I can obviously see you. If you do not have your video on, that's fine. You can leave your video off if you prefer, but just give me a some type of reaction, thumbs up or wave or clap or something to let me know that you are in fact present and ready to get started. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Abby. Thank you. The rest of you I can physically see. Thank you, Ashley. Josh and Evity, are you guys there? All right, we'll give them just a second because it is just 2:30 now. Oh, now it is 2:31, officially late. But that's all right. Okay, so I'll do a little bit of preamble before we get started. So today we are talking about goal setting. So before we get into this, we've spent kind of the last week together doing a lot of what we would kind of call the personal development side of Leap In. And so there's a reason we do this, you know, to be great entrepreneurs and founders and owners of companies, you really need to be secure in who you are. And we're going to go into a few more things, like more things about values and mission. But really after today, we are going to, oh my goodness, Rachel. After today, we really are going to move more into the operations sides of our business. So today is kind of the last day where we'll be a little more introspective as us as the founders, and then we're going to move more as examining the businesses and all facets of it. So I know for some of you, you love this stuff, you know, personal development is your game. You know, I know for some of you, it's even your business, and that's great. For others, I know that this has maybe been a bit painful, and I'll just share that I'm the kind of person who, when I have to go to PD events and we're talking about our goals and, you know, we want to talk about those things and share our childhood memories, I get really uncomfortable and really angry. So if you've been feeling like that for the last little bit, I don't watch the presentations on SpeakerView, so I've been watching your faces, and I know a few of you have maybe been fuming just a touch, and that's okay. That's a completely valid way to feel. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, and if you love this, that's also okay. A big part of being a business owner is ensuring that you have time for reflection, but all I would encourage you to do is take some time to think about, why do you love or hate this kind of part of it? Is it an uncomfortable thing, or is it you feel like it's a waste of time thing? What is it? So we're going to talk about goal setting. It's going to be a lot more tactical than what we've talked about before, but I would like you to be thinking about kind of what we've talked about over the last week. What is it that, you know, what do you see on that vision board for yourself? What have you, when you think about your mindset, what do you think about those things? Because we're going to start really writing those things down so that we can measure them. So that's my little preamble. I hope you will enjoy this presentation. We made a joke that I was going to read my bio aloud as a third person, but I'm not going to do that because I just don't need to embarrass myself any more than I typically do on an average day. So, Dave, you are at the top of my screen. Can you confirm that you can see this for me? Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, everyone. Today we are talking about goal setting. So welcome to Goal Setting with Kelsey. We are going to talk about setting, tracking, and achieving our goals. And as we go through this today, goal setting can obviously be a super long-term pursuit where we can be talking about, you know, your goal for the next, you know, 10-year plan, as Evity had pointed out that she has written out. Goal setting can be talking about getting through the week. Whatever it is, make sure you go through this exercise for you. I would encourage you, though, because we're going to be making some really tactile goals, to try for something in the next next 6 months. All right. So I don't want anybody writing down that they're going to, exceed Warren Buffett's wealth as their goal for today. We're going to be doing something that's a little bit more, let's say by the end of 2021, these are things that we want to be doing. So I've broken down goal setting into this process that I find helpful. It's a process that involves the 5 Ds. So the first one is to dream. And that's what we've really been spending the last kind of week doing. This is where we figure out what is it that we want? Where do we see our lives? This is where vision boards comes in. This is where we start thinking about, in my ideal world, I want to live on a beach like Braden had talked about. And these are these big audacious dreams that we have. They can be a little bit more realistic and tactile if that's what you like. But, it's what are you looking for out of life in a big audacious goal? Once we have that dream, that's where we're going to start breaking it down. And that's what we're adding on from today. So if you've been going through this and thinking, yeah, I want to live on a beach, or yeah, I want to be financially independent, or I want to go whale watching someday, whatever that dream is, we're going to start breaking it down into making that into a SMART goal. So has anybody experienced working with SMART goals before? I can't see all of you on my screen, but give me a bit of a wave. I see Rachel has. Awesome. Brooke. Good. All right. So SMART goals basically are where we break it down into strategic, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And we'll go about kind of looking at how we can make something that's a big dream into something that's some actionable steps. Once we've made those actionable steps, those actionable parts of our goal, then we want to break it down into the actionable steps. So just because we know by when we want to achieve something doesn't mean that achieving that goal is our first step. And I'll give you some examples of this, but generally something like, if I don't run at all and I choose that I want to run a 10K as my goal, my first step isn't running a 10K. What are the steps that I need to do to be able to get to that 10K? Deliver is literally getting to work. What are we going to do? Actually starting working towards that goal. And then finally deliberate. And this one's really important and something we tend to miss. This is where we're going to jump back and say, okay, what have I done? Have I actually achieved that goal? Is that goal still relevant, or is it time to start again and go back to that dream space? So let's get started. I'm not going to give you a ton of time for this because I think that we've already spent some time over the last week dreaming about what it is we want our businesses to be, where we want them to go, or who we want to be in the people that are founding these businesses. But what I'd like you to do right now, and you can do it on the worksheet that I gave you, there's a box there for you to write down a dream. It can have to do with your business, it can have to do with your life. Reflect on your values and how it might inform that. And you can keep track of this in whatever way you're comfortable. The worksheet's a way that I like to do it. If you're a Post-it person, you can write this on a Post-it, whatever works. I'm so sorry, there's a new puppy just outside my window. We need to take a moment to, oh, it's so fresh and little. Anyways, so sorry. That's my dream, my new puppy. So we're gonna keep track of these dreams in whatever way we're comfortable, but if you like the worksheet, great, just make sure you save it somewhere. If you don't like the worksheet and you wanna do it on your whiteboard or something like that, then that's great. And as you think about your dream, I want you to think about, where does your dream fit? So these are kind of the facets that make up a whole person, a whole entrepreneur it is. So is this dream a business dream, a financial dream, a physical or health dream, a social or human-centered interaction dream? Is it a mental dream to do with our mental health or learning, or a spiritual dream? So we're not going to take the whole 5 minutes, but I will give you 2 minutes. Take some time, jot down your dream.
Is it the dream for the next 6 months?
Yeah, ideally it should be something that you could hypothetically accomplish, let's say in this calendar year.
And can it be in many different areas here?
Yeah, you can write down as many of them as you'd like. We're going to go through the exercise of breaking down one of them a little further, but write down as many as you'd like. Okay, let's take about 30 more seconds. Again, as many dreams as you like, but we're gonna narrow it down to one. Okay, and stop. So at this point, you should have thought of at least one dream, something that you would like to achieve by the end of this calendar year. And we're going to move on to exploring how we can operationalize that dream a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do is start defining that dream in some more realistic terms. So I talked about this one kind of a little bit earlier. So when we have dreams, they tend to be abstract. They tend to be things we want or we want to be. They very rarely are the steps to get there or the things that would actually measure that. So the example I put here was to be healthier. You know, it's a pretty common dream for people. You know, we say we want to be healthier, or we want to be thinner, or we want to eat better, something like that. But, you know, those words of just those adjectives, I want to be healthier, I want to be thinner, I want to, whatever that thing is, those dreams aren't very measurable. So if I say I want to be healthier, I need to really critically ask myself, well, what does that mean, or why? Kind of similar to what we talked about kind of asking those multiple why questions. So, well, to being healthier, well, what's the thing for me? Well, you know what? I'm not really that active. I spend all day sitting. If to me, being healthier would look like me maybe being a bit more active, getting outside more. Well, how active do I want to be? Do I just want to literally walk around my house? Because that would be getting outside more. I'm like, no, you know, I want to be one of those people I see around that seem healthy. I see people running, they seem so healthy. So I think I want to be able to run 10 kilometers. So I would set an active goal, which is taking my dream of being healthier into something that's a little bit more measurable, to being able to run 10 kilometers without having to stop to keel over and throw up. All right. Which, you know, would honestly happen if I tried to run 10 kilometers right now. So I'd like you to start kind of thinking, go through, if you wrote down multiple dreams, that's great. I want you to go through and kind of think, okay, which of these dreams can I write into something that's just a little bit more tangible? You know, if I wrote down, I want to be financially independent, you know, I'm going to write down, okay, maybe what does that number look like? Or what does financially independent mean? Does it mean I'm not borrowing off of my line of credit, something like that? So take some time, just 1 minute, and kind of look at a dream, choose the one that you want to go forward with, and then ask yourself, is this tangible, or can I, you know, expand it just a little bit? Just take about 10 more seconds. Awesome. Okay, so hopefully by now, I'll just jump back there. You've gotten your goal from something maybe a bit more abstract. These are dreams that we have, things that we want to be or do or have, into something that's a little bit more tangible, has at least maybe some kind of measurement in it, or a bit of an understanding of what that dream would look like for you. No pressure, challenge by choice. Does anybody want to share what goal they're going to be going forward with elaborating? No, that's all right.
I have one.
Oh, all right. Go ahead, Tracy. Oh, sorry. We'll do both. Go ahead, Tracy, and then Ebony.
So I have mine saying that Justin won't be going back to his full-time job, so we'll be able to have him as a full-time business employee, I guess, technically.
Very good. That's a great one. Thanks, Tracy. Evity?
To be able to create streams of income within my business, to have consistent income of $5,000 monthly.
Very good. Awesome. I love that you put a number on that. So streams of income, we put a number on it. So something like both of the goals that you guys had may have started with something like seeing my business grow. And we've really defined what growth of the business looks like with those two things. So well done. All right, we're going to get into SMART goals. We talked a little bit already about SMART goals, but if you are unfamiliar with SMART goals or the SMART goal setting method, this is just a little bit about it. So SMART goals are specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, they are relevant, and they are time-based. So, you know, I just said my goal is to get a new puppy because I saw a really cute puppy walking down. If I were to go through the SMART goal method, I would probably get stopped at relevant and say, does that have anything to do with my business? Well, maybe if I was Rachel, it might, but for the rest of us, likely getting a new puppy doesn't actually have anything to do with your business that you're working on with us today. So what's specific? We already kind of started with this one a little bit when we started to define, but our goal needs to be specific to one action, event, or skill. So goals like our dreams, the ones that say my business needs to be better, I want to be healthier, I'm looking to be stronger, smarter, those types of things. You know, we want it to really narrow down, and we can have many goals, but we want each goal to be specific so that we can effectively plan for it. Goals are a great thing to have, and some people really like the act of setting goals for themselves, but if you cannot measure and achieve that goal, then it's a reflective exercise, which is a great thing to do. But today we're talking about how we can actually get somewhere. That's a big part of this accelerator. So how do you know you will have achieved the goal? What is the thing? Are you setting a dollar figure to it like Evity is? Are you setting yourself, you know, maybe a time, or are you setting yourself a thing that you'll have, like an actual measurable thing in your hand? How will you know you met that goal? Because saying I'm going to be smarter is not something you can measure. How are you going to know that you're smarter? Attainability is also really key in these SMART goals. So like I said, I don't want to see anybody saying that they were going to surpass the wealth of Warren Buffett by the end of this workshop. That would be unreasonable unless many of you are heavily invested in, I don't know, some kind of Bitcoin mining company or something like that. Is it actually possible to do the thing that you're talking about doing? And can you see yourself achieving this goal? So I know when Marley was talking, she said, you know, set your goals and double it. And that's all well and good, and that's a great thing. But for today's exercise for a SMART goal, we're breaking our goals into smaller pieces. So what we really want to do is we want to say, okay, it is attainable for me to be making, you know, $40,000 a year by the end of this year. I can make a stretch goal and say, you know, maybe I want to set that to 50, maybe I want to set that to 60. But is my goal really attainable if I set that to 200,000? Likely not. So really set a goal that is a bit of a stretch, but it is attainable. It is in your realm of possibility based on where you are now and where you plan to go. Relevance, we already talked about. I want to get a new puppy. That has nothing to do with my business. Maybe that's not the goal I'm going to be working through today. Is this actually aligned with the values and with the business that you are starting? And then finally, I kind of set your time for you, but you should have your goals be time-based. Is there a deadline for this goal? And that's going to help us break it out into steps a little bit easier. If we know the end, we can work backwards. Any questions about SMART goals or how they work? Tracy, your hand's still up, but I think it's just from last time. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Okay.
I always forget about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time here. So this chart is in your workbook or worksheet that I made up for you there. So you've settled on your dream. You've defined it down to being something a little bit more manageable. And I want you to write out each of these things. So if my dream is to get a puppy, I specifically would like to get a lab puppy, a black lab puppy. I will measure this by having the puppy and all of the things that I need for the puppy in my home. It needs to be in my possession. I'll have the papers and everything. The puppy will be owned by me and I can see this. Is that attainable? Well, if you ask my husband, no, but yes, you know, I have a dog now. I know I could do this. I could take care of a puppy and I think I have the room in my house for a puppy to live. So a check for that one. Is it relevant? Well, we already know it's not, but let's say that my goal here is just puppy financial greatness, then yes, it would be relevant to my business and I can say yes, because it's going to make me happy. And when do I want to do this? Well, by the end of the year, I'm going to get this black lab puppy. So that's an exercise I've gone through for that goal of getting a puppy. So give yourselves, let's say 3 minutes this time, and try and make a point for each of those specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based, based on the dream you started with at the beginning. All right, let's take 1 more minute and make sure you have something at least in every box, even if it's just a check mark.
See, my laptop won't let me. I think, I don't know, it's too slow that my internet sucks right now. I can't fill out that Google document at all. It will like just die on me.
That's okay, Jenny. Just grab a piece of paper and draw out this. You can do it on a piece of paper. It doesn't need to be done on the Google Doc.
Okay, good. I was like, I can't do that. Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, clicking through, I'm seeing a few of your eyes wandering, so I'm guessing we're just about done, if not quite done yet. Thank you for throwing that thumbs up there, Tracy. I know you're done. Let's just take 15 more seconds. All right. So jumping back, if we're looking at these SMART goals, just give me some type of reaction up here. Were you able to fill in something into every box? Give me a thumbs up, either on screen or with the reaction, if you could get every box filled. Most of you, yeah? Okay. Were there any boxes that were a little harder to fill than others? You can just unmute and tell me, or you can pop it in the chat if you'd like.
I found attainable and relevant were difficult for me. Because I'm like, I don't, as long as I'm smart enough with my marketing Probably.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think sometimes that's the answer, Tracy, like probably. That's probably a good term that it's a stretch goal. So if stretch goal is not a term that you're familiar with, that's basically where you set a goal that's inside your comfort zone and then you step just slightly outside of it. So the idea of doubling your goals might be your stretch goal. For some people, maybe that's way too big because your goals were already a bit audacious. And so stretch goals are where we just step a little bit outside of our comfort zone. So if you're kind of going probably, it's probably realistically attainable. It's just going to be some work, and that's not a bad thing. You know, we're all here because we're not afraid of work, right? Did anyone have any problems with any of the other sections? All right, looking like no, we're good. Okay, so this is a great exercise for you to do as you start setting goals. And again, like I said, if you're a person who loves vision boards and manifestation and all of that, that's great. And you are more than welcome to do that. But I would encourage you at least, quarterly to look at these vision boards and manifestations that you have and break it down. Specifically this relevant one. If you're putting on your vision board to get a Bentley, is that relevant to you? Is it relevant to your business? Is it really relevant to what you want? I want you to make sure that you're not just falling into those kind of stereotypes of entrepreneurship as you look at these goals. So we're going to keep breaking these down a little bit more. We need to make a plan. So it's great to have a goal. It's even better to have a well-defined goal that we've made by breaking it down and making it into a SMART goal. But we really need to find a way to ensure that we're going to be successful with that goal by breaking it down into manageable steps and chunks. And when building our goals, this is also where we're going to have to start thinking about being accountable. Because if my goal, once again, is to get a puppy, I'm not just going to go out tomorrow to get a puppy. I have a partner and I am married and I live in a house. And if I just showed up with a puppy, he would be like, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? I mean, he'd love the puppy, but I can't just do that tomorrow. There are things that I need to do and get in place. And I realize this is a silly example, but Tracy was talking about, her husband working full-time for the business. She can't just go over to him and say, hi, Justin, guess what? You're a full-time employee. Haha, great. There are things that need to happen before that can all be settled. So what we're going to do is I want you to take some time to think about breaking your goals into steps. And then also where you're going to notice these things. So again, are you a Post-it person? Do you like this spreadsheet? Are you writing it on a whiteboard? Do you have a journal that you like? I know Abigail shared with us she really likes journaling. I'm hoping that this is where she's putting her goals. So we're thinking about ways to stay accountable and breaking our goals into manageable steps. And when we think about breaking our goals into manageable steps, there's two kinds of approaches that people use when doing their goals, and it sort of depends on how you set your goal. So the two examples I had here were, if your goal was to have your own place, that's great. I've set my goal, I'm going to have my own place. What does that mean for me? Okay, so to have my own place, I'm going to move out. That means I need to be making about $1,000 more a month than I'm currently making. So I'm going to need my business to do that. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to make more sales a month. That's kind of a top-down approach where I'm saying, okay, I want to do this thing, and these are the things that are going to need to happen to do that. And then I would break those sales down. How am I going to increase my sales? On the other side, your bottom-up approach that I'm guessing most of you probably haven't gone this way, but it's something that you can sort of think about, is that you might be thinking, I want to make more money. And so that's where we start by where are we now rather than where we want to be. Well, I know I make $1,000 a month. I'd like to be making, at least $1,100 a month. Like that seems reasonable for next month. It's a pretty short-term goal. So I need to, now I've done the math, I know I need to increase those sales by 8%. How am I going to do that? So as you're looking at these goals, some people like to think of where they're going. Some people like to think to where they are and just think up. Either of those are fine, but you still need to break them out into manageable steps. So let's break them out into manageable steps. So 2 parts to this activity here now. We've written out our SMART goal by taking our dream and then writing the pieces of it that are SMART. So reiterate your goal, whatever you're working on, whether you're typing, whether you're writing, whatever it is. I want you to rewrite your goal, keeping all of those SMART things that you put in place in mind. I will get a black lab puppy in my home with all of the food and things I need for a puppy by December 2021, and have the support of my husband to do so. That is a SMART goal for me getting a puppy. You're not getting a puppy, write down your SMART goal and then break it down into the things you need to do to be able to do that. So in order to get this puppy, number one, I need to find a puppy I can buy. Very hard in COVID. Number two, I need to go to the pet store to buy the things I need for a puppy. Oh, well, the pet stores aren't open. I need to order it online from PetSmart. Number three, I want to invest in a dog training class because my current dog is somewhat, poorly behaved. So I need to make sure this dog is better behaved. How can I check in on these things? Are the things that I know I've met them. So I know that I will have found someone who will sell me a puppy when they've sent me a written confirmation of it. That's an accountability check. So go through, give you a little more time for this one. Write your goal down and then put in at least 3 steps you would need to take to start working towards that goal. You can unmute and ask any questions. I'm going to give you about 4 minutes this time.
Okay, so Kelsey, the SMART goal is essentially like the measurable, like a measurable goal.
Right. So all those things that you had that you wrote in that first chart,
Yeah.
you're basically just going to make that into one sentence. So for Tracy, Justin is going to work full-time in the business. He will be working on videography and technical support. He will be doing this by working from home, and this will look like what? It's realistic because the business will be bringing in X amount of money by this date. Something like that, just pulling it all together into one cohesive sentence.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
I just saw Abby's message in the chat about the Fanshawe notebook. I never got anything in the mail. Is there something in there that I'm going to really need?
It was sent to the address that you gave us when you signed up.
Yeah.
Is that where you currently are?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Mine got a little bit mixed up, so FedEx had to call me, so maybe something happened there because like the numbers in my I think it was sent to 702 instead of 207 or something like that, or 42 instead of 24. So
interesting.
Maybe something like that happened.
Yeah, I forgot about it, honestly. Yeah, I don't know.
Rachel, can you just send me an email? Do you mind? And then I will pass that on to our receiving department so they can follow up with you.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Rachel's goal is going to be to get herself a Fanshawe notebook and fashionable Fanshawe hat. Ashley, you actually all got different hats. Some of you have toques and some of you have ball caps. There's actually a mix of them. So at some point, we're going to get you all to wear them, apparently after we get Rachel's sent out to her. It was just a bit of a roulette of who got what hat. So we'll take a group picture where we'll all have our different hats on. I'm very excited about this.
I actually needed a new ball cap, and I was like, yes, I don't have to buy one online and not be able to see it. And anyways.
Oh, I hope it fits.
Can you let me know beforehand so that I can straighten my hair?
Sure, I can do that. Dave, you have to go to the college to pick yours up. I'm not paying shipping for you.
I'm a hermit now. I don't leave my house.
No, me neither. This is how we'll never get one. All right. Hats and notebooks are all great, but let's take just another 30 seconds here, again, to have written out our SMART goal into one cohesive sentence, or maybe 2 sentences, depending on how specific you got, and then written down 3 steps that would lead to us being able to achieve that.
What is accountability check?
Yeah, so, if we're saying the goal is for Rachel to get a hat, first step in that is emailing me. She'll know that she's accountable to that when I reply saying, thank you, I've received your email. So how do you know that step's kind of done? What can you do to check off that you're monitoring that? All right, so can I have everyone open up the chat on Zoom? And I want you just to tell me 1 step to meeting your goal. You don't have to tell me what your goal is. You don't have to tell me, unless it's super personal and you don't want to share, challenge by choice. Tell me 1 step towards meeting your goal. All right, these are looking good. Can we get a few more? Yeah, you're just telling us 1 thing that's going to 1 step towards making your goal. Okay, awesome. These are looking great, and you can definitely tell how different people's brains work as they go through these. Some of you are very numbers driven. I'm going to do who is it that I was just looking at that had all the numbers in it? I think that was Jenny's. So you need to be doing this by this amount of time, this many things. Some of you are more in a figuring out phase. I need to explore this opportunity. I need to do this. I need to find out how to do this. So these are all great. Some accountability things. So you can either pop these in the chat, or if you would like to tell us about it. So most of you have said this is a thing you're going to do. How will you know that is done? What are you going to do for yourself to make sure that you do it? I see that Ashley's creating a spreadsheet of ingredients and costs. Ashley, since you're there, how would Ashley know? And it doesn't have to be Ashley that answers. How would Ashley know that she had this done? How's she going to keep herself accountable? She could she could Google ingredients and costs. What's something maybe she could use the spreadsheet for, or something like that, so that she would know that this is a thing that's actually done and usable?
I make charts, excuse me, and I would probably make the chart and then screenshot it and put it into the thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Once you've used the chart and you've been able to maybe post it somewhere, you could put a picture of it on your vision board so that you saw that it was there. Abby, I love that. Yeah, she used the spreadsheet to complete an order, so that's how she knew. She went through and calculated from there. That would be a great feeling, I'm imagining, for Ashley. She would have said, yeah, I did all this work, and look, now I've automated this part of my business and things are so much easier. That's a great accountability check. So as you're going through again with these goals, and I know that we're really deep diving the goal. So if you chose something that was maybe a bit of a smaller goal, you might be like, okay, I get it, enough. But these things are, as we have those big goals, breaking it down into being smart and then breaking out at least 3 steps to meeting those goals is something I would challenge you to do. Because although there is power behind manifestation, a lot of the times the things that we want in life are not right in front of us. They are things that we need to work for, and we need to remind ourselves that these things are things that come in steps. You know, I look at some of you on the screen, and I'm looking at Steve right now, and Steve's not going to open a farm store tomorrow, right, Steve? There's like, what, 95,000 steps to be getting there. So starting to break things into smaller chunks is definitely going to be something that you're going to need to do. All right. And this is a million. Yeah, it probably is honestly a million though, isn't it? So we set our goals. We've been really intentional. We've gone about it. And this is the part that I don't think we've talked a lot about. And we're going to basically spend the rest of our time in Leap in this phase. And this is where we start to execute. It's all well and good to make a solid plan. And it's all well and good to break your goals down into bite-sized pieces and make a roadmap and make a vision board and make a manifestation for your life. But then you need to do it. And that's really the key thing that I think I want to drive home, especially from the people that have come to talk to us about all of the things that they are doing. The people that you have met so far in the program, they are hustlers. They work super hard. They put in the hours, they put in the time. So they may be setting goals in various types of ways. But if you're not willing to put in the work, if you're not willing to set up ways to stay accountable, to check in with yourself, and then to do the things that need to be done, your goals aren't going to get anywhere. We can all set great goals, but we have to be willing to hustle. I would say that all of you probably set the goal to get into Leap In, and then you did the work. Every one of you prepared a presentation. Every one of you came in ready to answer questions. Every one of you was able to, tell us what it is that you're going to do. And I would say that this is a great accountability check. Take a minute to appreciate, hey, I'm here and I'm participating. That's how I know I've been accountable to the goal of getting into Leap In. How are you tracking that progress though? Did you take time when you got your acceptance email to celebrate? Did you, you couldn't have gone out for a drink with a friend, but did you, give yourself a high five? Did you make banana bread and say, woohoo, this is a great day? Did you do something for yourself? Those are also important in this delivery process. But again, it's important to note, any type of goal setting you do, whether it's super deliberate, SMART goals, vision boarding, manifestation, none of it's going to happen without the work. No one's going to pull a Tesla into your driveway just because. You need to be doing some things to be getting there. Now, there are some ways that you can help yourself stay accountable as you're working through this. So a couple of methods that we've had either ourselves or some entrepreneurs in the past have used. Writing it down is a common one. Obviously, we talked about that a little bit on day one. So journaling, day planners, some people like diaries. I know Dave's a big proponent of whiteboards. When we're in the office, he's got like 3 whiteboards around his desk. We talked about spreadsheets. Abby was talking about making spreadsheets. I know she's also talked about journaling. So writing it down and keeping a note of those things can be really helpful. When I was working on my master's, I had literally Post-its all over our office because that's what I would do to keep myself accountable. I would have Post-its everywhere. Some of you are a little bit more glued to your computers. I'm looking at you, Josh. This is where we have apps that can help us with this. Maybe you're somebody that just wants an app that's going to remind you. It can give you those nudges like Braden was talking about. Maisie, I see something like this for you as well. Apps to really help you work through these things. A couple great ones are on here. Coach Me, Stride, Way of Life. Things like that can be really helpful, and that really flows into project management tools as well. Asana, Trello, Microsoft Planner, Monday. Those are all great ones. Josh, I know you're a big, I think it's Monday you use, right? Yeah. So these ones are really great. Fun fact, Dave planned all of Leap In on Asana. So the entirety of this massive program is built on a platform like that. So you can definitely use these to do some pretty intense things. And if you are interested in project management tools, I'm going to refer you to Josh because he's got some really cool experience in that. And then we've talked about these obviously a lot with our other speakers. Some people are very visual. Cecilia, I know you were talking about being a very visual person. So, for you, maybe it is vision boards or doodles. not all reflection has to be done with words. Maybe it's pictures you draw. Maybe it's self-portraits that you make. Whatever your process is, don't let anybody tell you that it's wrong or right, because it's your personality. But whatever you're doing, just make sure you're working on your goals and you're finding a way to track them and to stay accountable to yourself. I like apps and visual things that are right in front of me because my mind tends to wander to the next thing that's shiny. But, I also just really hate writing. So that might be why I kind of gravitate towards these lower down on this board things. If you're a person who's really good at journaling, I tend to buy journals at Winners because I think they're cute and then never use them, then great, use those journals. That's what they are there for. Your whole wall's covered. Oh, see, Cecilia, you definitely are a visual person. I love that. So work on our goals, but also take time to record our goals. This can be something, you do once upon a time when we used to sit on buses while just sitting on the bus. It can be just something you do while you're watching TV. Just like take a note. What have you done this week, this month, today? Make sure you're monitoring. And then it's also important to check in to make sure that these goals are still aligned. So if, like me, as I said, you tend to move on to the next thing that's shiny, or you're working so hard in your business, you're just bouncing from thing to thing all the time, it's really important to take some time to evaluate your goals, make sure they're still relevant, cross off the ones you've achieved, take time to celebrate them, and set some new ones. So this is a time for you to be critical. Does this goal still make sense? Is this goal still something that I'm working on? Is this goal something that I'm on track to achieve? And is this goal done? It's basically the things you're going to ask yourself. So you might set a goal of, Brooke, you're on my screen right now. Brooke might set a great goal that she's going to, get into 19 stores by the end of the year. And that's a great goal for Brooke. And then something happens in Brooke's business and she decides, you know what, I'm going to become a direct-to-consumer business. When she goes back to review her goals and she sees that she had this goal to be in 19 stores and she's like, oh, I haven't done anything on that. Should Brooke feel bad about herself? No, she changed her direction. She made a pivot in her business, and that's where she needs to look at that and say, okay, I'm not in 19 stores, but that's okay. That's time for me to change that goal. What would 19 stores equal out in a direct-to-consumer business? I don't know, maybe I want to be making 1,900 sales. Whatever that thing is, she can then pivot that goal to be doing whatever that is. And I'm not saying that's the direction you need to go, Brooke, but that's just an example because you're in front of me. So it's okay to pivot and reevaluate those goals, but don't just throw them away. Look at them and take time to remember, I set this goal. This is what I was thinking at this time. Maybe this goal isn't relevant anymore, but how I was feeling at the time and what I wanted still is relevant. So how can I change that goal to being in alignment with what my business now needs? And once again, we have a handy chart for you to be able to do. So I recommend that you do something like this every 3 months. So if you're visual, maybe it's updating your vision board. If you're a planner person, maybe you star every quarter, and that's the month where you're going to look back at the last quarter's goals, whatever it is. And we're not going to do this now because obviously I haven't given you 3 months time since 15 minutes ago when we set our goals. But you want to write down the goal that you had. You want to check, have I achieved the goal? Yes or no? Is the goal still relevant? Yes or no? What's next or what needs to change? So this is the update. So if I've achieved the goal, what's the next step? And then any comments or reflections, it's a good time to take some time and say, I achieved this and it was really freaking hard and I am proud of myself. Or, this goal kind of achieved itself without me working on it because I was so focused on this other thing. It's good for you to kind of note these things about yourselves as you go forward. So just keep this one in your back pocket. It's something I would say that probably after Leap In, I'd love for you all to revisit kind of this table and think, what are the goals I came into Leap In with? And, are these goals still relevant? Are they achieved? And what's next for me? And then we'll kind of wrap up with this, that goal setting is not a linear process. It's more like a circle, even though I presented it as a linear process earlier to you. So you want to dream, figuring out what it is you want. You want to define, what is it that I really want, breaking it down into something a little bit more manageable. Then we want to design by making our goals smart, making sure that they are attainable, measurable, and making sure that they are things that we can break down into manageable chunks. Then we want to hustle, work towards our goals, and make sure that we are ensuring the work that we're actually doing is relevant to the goals that we've set for ourselves. And then we want to look back and say, okay, did we do it? Do we need to reflect? Do we need to pivot? Or do we need a whole new dream and start this whole cycle again? And with that, we're done. So I will stop sharing this. Again, it's in the chat, so you can refer back if you have any questions you want to look at it. But that is Tactile Goal Setting 101. Does anyone have any questions?
I like how you broke it down into the 5 Ds. Like it's kind of like more, I'm that kind of person. I'm like, okay, you know, what are those called? You know, in school and like when you study, you make you know, like Jenny, and then you'd be like, J is this, and then E. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, like an acrostic poems? I think they're called.
I don't know, something like, yeah, something like that. But I like this because my brain works like that. So sorry about the screaming children.
That's quite all right. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. And I think that I obviously also sort of have a brain that works that way, Jenny. And so I find that goal setting for me is something that actually I find really hard because, you know, I can think of these big audacious goals. Like I was saying, you know, I want to be healthier or wealthier or happier or those things, but what that really looks like, you know, getting into the nitty gritty and actually spending that time getting uncomfortable with myself and reflecting, like I hate that. That's what I was saying kind of at the beginning. If you're the kind of person who loves that, then good for you. And, you know, vision boards and manifestation are going to work for you. But if you're more like me, and I know a few of you are because I've been watching your faces, and like the idea of manifestation's not for you, then this is probably the method you're going to need to go through. And reflection can be uncomfortable and it's not fun, but it is real and relevant, and your friends that are a little bit more mindful are on to something. So make sure that you are at least spending some time to reflect on, have I achieved this, yes or no, even if it's a very tactile form of reflection. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
So I'm just wondering, he's playing the game. I'm just wondering, how many like goals should we have going on at one time?
That's a really great question. And I would imagine that if you were to really dig deep, you could probably come up with 100 goals, right? You know, you're full humans. You've got goals for your health, you've got goals for your family, you've got goals for your business, you've got goals for your finances, all of these things. But I would say, Tracy, I'm going to flip this on its head, and I know you're not going to like the answer of it. Really depends on what you're working on right now. If you've got a lot going on, you know, in your life and in your business and, you know, in your partner's life and in your family and all of these things, then you might have a lot of goals. But then I would encourage you to make sure, especially if you're balancing competing priorities, as I know a lot of you on these calls are, that your goals are broken down into much more manageable chunks. You know, Tracy, you're never going to be able to make your only goal to make $150,000 a year. Like you've got kids, you've got a partner, you've got a business, you've got, I don't know, mortgages or debts or things like there's all these things that you need to balance as well. Typically though, I would say that, you know, humans don't focus on more than 3 things really well. You know, you need to, the reason that you tend to set learning outcomes kind of in those groups of 3 is because these are kind of the things that you can go forward on. So at the front of your mind, and maybe your goal is 4 leap in, I would say try and keep it to around 3, but you probably have 50, 70, 280 goals that are going on in the back, and that's fine too.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. All right. Well, I'm here all the time. So if you have questions about goal setting or anything like that, you can always ask me on the breaks of our sessions. Also, I do office hours on Wednesday mornings. So if you want to talk about those things or anything else, I will be around. But with that, I will wrap it up for today.
I just had a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Ebony.
I like the idea of the manifestation and all that, but this is definitely something that excites me because it makes it everything feel more real instead of just like a picture in my head that I get excited about but then never move on. But with this, I'm like super excited. I can feel it in like my gut because I'm like, oh, it is totally attainable with Leap In, you know. So
You did that.
Thank you.
I'm glad you liked it. And I think too that something that personally has always kind of irked me about the manifestation framework is that people don't talk about what happens between making the vision board and attaining the vision board, right? And you know, if I can use Marley as an example, because I know Marley quite well, like that girl works all the time. She hustles, she puts in the work, she is amazing at what she does. She did not just get handed this life. She worked very hard for it. And I think that that's important to note, right? However you're setting your goals, hard work is going to be part of it. You know, unless somebody here wins the lottery and has a naturally gifted MBA sense of accomplishment in their head, then great. I mean, you're going to do well. And I hope that you'll remember me when you're a multi-billionaire that didn't have to do anything to get there. But likely you're going to have to hustle and do the work. And however long that takes is how long that's going to take, right? Dave.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk like just around some tools. You know, when you said earlier, like what kind of person are you? You said that goal setting is hard for you. And I think the opposite. It's very easy for me. I think very much like engineer mindset. I like reverse engineering problems, figuring out problems. In order to do that, you have to break them down into micro goals, micro steps. So this comes very natural to me. And I find that over the years, I've used tons of tools, something like Asana. But something I found is that if you start making a ton of goals, you just get lost in all those goals. And it's like, I have this list, this mountain, whether it's on paper and digital form, whatever it lives. It means nothing if you're not actually living to it. So I found an app a few years ago that I really like. It's called Productive. And it only lets you put, so it's more for things you're trying to add to your life in some ways. So if you're like, okay, I'm finding I'm wasting too much time and that's leading to a problem in my business, I need to do this. They're for like making changes in your behavior. So you make an active goal with a timeline to change it daily, weekly, however much it is, but it only lets you put so many, and then that's all you can focus on for right now. So at any given time, I have about 7 things I'm working on, like actively changing. And the goal is to try to change some of them. Usually they're about a month or 2 months until it becomes a habit. And then it's like, okay, I changed that thing. I can move on to something else I'm trying to add in or remove from my life. A lot of this is a bit more related to personal behaviors, but a lot of that is connected to our business and how much we can produce or not produce or what we can do or not do. But you can use it also for, I need to reach out to X amount of customers, or I need to do this, or, you know, it forces you every day and it yells at you. You can set a lot of like different alerts and it can get kind of funny. And it has a partner app that's a bit more aggressive, but I forget what the name is, but if you look it up, you'll find it. Where it actually starts like making fun of you, and like if you like negative reinforcement like I do, find it really effective, especially when trying to get back into exercise. I need someone to like yell at me and be like my gym coach from like, you know, grade 7. So anyways, just want to say it. So there's fun little tools out there like that. If you like more of the woo-woo, I think I showed you guys that Stoic app last week, which is really cool. There's some really like, it's more for like looking at that big, hairy, audacious goals and stuff like that and doing reflection. That's more on like the other side rather than more tactile. So both those are great apps I've just found really useful.
Love that. Yeah. And any apps you use, Dave or anyone else, make sure that you're popping those into that shared resource channel on Discord, because those are great things. I would challenge you, and I know kind of how silly this sounds kind of coming from me, but I would challenge you to at least try something that's not what you would typically do as you set goals and look for reflection. Because the fact of it is, whether you're like me and goal setting's hard, or whether you're like Dave and you set 50,000 goals a day, if you're not doing it right and you're not actually being mindful of it, you're gonna let life push you in the direction that life's gonna push you, right? And, you know, I find that happens some days. I'm like, what? Wait, how did I get here? And I don't want to speak for Dave, but I would imagine the same thing happens, that he has to go through and be like, wait, is this goal, does it meet this goal? But it doesn't meet this goal, but it doesn't meet this goal. So either way, some focus is required. When I was working in my master's, I had a whole project that I had to do with this, of all about reflection. And I ended up doing it all through a social media post chain because I was like, this makes me super uncomfortable. What can I do with it? But it was an awesome learning because I was able to do it that way. So if you use it for a week and you delete it, well, then you used it for a week and delete it. But try something of goal setting if you're kind of hitting a roadblock that if it makes you a little uncomfortable, you'll at least know the way that you like doing it isn't as scary as the way that you didn't like doing it.
Very true.
All righty.
I just wanted to ask, is there anybody who has any questions about any of the action steps from last week?
I was actually going to ask you about the 1.3. I had like a really hard time wrapping my head around it. Yeah, so.
With the evaluating your business concept against your personal vision?
Yeah. Like, and just using the chart, like I did the chart and I did it all, but I don't know. I couldn't really figure out what it really meant. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Do you want to stay on after and talk about it?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Happy to do that. Any other questions? No. So up on FOL right now, there's the readings for tomorrow. That's pretty much the homework for today. Just try to jump into it. You don't have to get through all of it by any means, but maybe try to do some of the reality checks and the check your knowledge exercises. But it's up there for you, day 5, identifying and meeting market needs. So tomorrow we're going to be talking all about kind of opportunity assessment and getting into kind of, for some of you, it might be an overview of market research. For others, it might be your first time hearing about primary and secondary research in a more technical perspective. And then Paula Parlett, who is one of our research librarians at Fanshawe Library, is going to come in and show us a bunch of tools that you guys can use for deep diving, kind of whether it's B2B, B2C, deep diving these tools to access research and knowledge that's probably going to be pretty helpful for you as you're growing your business. So she'll be doing just a tool review. You can ask her lots of questions too, and then I'll be taking you guys through some activities and workshops around market research. Cool.
And I would just add, it's not a written thing for your homework, but those marketing statements that you were working on in your groups today, remember that we're going to do them again as a larger group on Thursday. So consider taking some of the feedback that you got in your breakout rooms today, adding, changing, or doing absolutely nothing with it. Maybe practice it in the mirror at least one more time though, because I know we're definitely excited to hear them. It's one of my favorite parts is watching those statements continue to grow and evolve. So yeah. Practice in the mirror, get yourself all amped up to pitch your own business to yourself or your partner, for those of you that have business partners.
Awesome.
Look at that, 3:30 on time today.
Right on the button. Oh, wow, look at that.
Not something we're great at. We're not great at ending right on time. So I'm going to stop talking before I ruin it. Thank you all so much for joining us.
It's a goal we have to set.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Arriving and ending on time. That's a goal we definitely need to work on. With that, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll stay on for a little bit after. And if you have a question, you can stay on for a quick question. We're only staying on for 10 minutes. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m.
Bye, everybody.
Adieu.
Bye.